You have had an incredible career in the music business. You started as singing jingles, you became a backup singer, then you had a stellar solo career, and also you performed with your husband, Kris Kristofferson. But what are you working on these days?
Well, I released a book, a new memoir, almost 2 weeks ago. So I've been doing a lot of work on the book tour, and I'm headed over to England for 3 weeks to do concerts and also a book tour there. And I'm working on pre-production for a new album and just a lot of stuff.
Okay. What's the name of your new book?
The book is called Delta Lady, a Memoir.
Was that a cathartic experience to write that, or did you find out anything new about yourself when you were writing it?
Well, I found out that I could write a book if I put my nose to the grindstone. I think it was very, very cathartic and, in a sense, very freeing to just get everything written in book form and to be able just to have the overview. The first time I read the manuscript, pretty much the final manuscript, as we had it edited, I read it all the way through, and just looking at it almost from a third person's point of view was really amazing, and I just kind of wept and laughed and felt like I had completed something that was very important to me.
What sort of reaction have you gotten so far from people that you've mentioned in the book?
Graham Nash wrote a blurb on the back of the book. He was very kind to have read the book, and he loved the book. Bonnie Bramlett she's been very supportive, and she said to me, reading your book tells me that when I write my book, I have to tell the truth, because you told the truth. And she's been really supportive of all the things that I talked about that were about the music, and of course, talked about my experiences with Delaney and Bonnie and a lot of different people. Mm-hmm. And then as far as Eric Clapton, his camp has no comment.
Oh, okay. In your book, you talk about the song Layla and the fact that you never received a songwriting credit for the music that plays at the culmination of the song. Did you ever talk to Eric Clapton about that?
No, I was not able to get to Eric.
Yeah.
When all of this happened back in the 1970s, I tried to get to Eric, and I was directed to his manager, Robert Stigwood. Mm-hmm. And Robert Stigwood just basically said, "What are you going to do about it?"
Yeah.
And they just blew me off, and I honestly did not have, financially, I was not able to go into a legal battle with this conglomerate entertainment company, and so I just simply, my only recourse has been to just tell my story and to have it confirmed by people like Bobby Whitlock and Bonnie Bramlett, who were in the studio and know it to be true.
Mm-hmm. In the book, you say this about Kris Kristofferson, or about you and Kris Kristofferson. Quote, "There are people today who would love nothing more than to see us together one more time. If we were in wheelchairs, it wouldn't matter. They just want to see Kris and Rita together singing." Unquote. Is that ever going to happen again?
Yeah, I never say never.
Yeah.
I think there's a good possibility that Kris may sing on my album. We've talked about that, and you never know what's going to happen. There's nothing planned right now, but I just believe that anything can happen, and hopefully not in a wheelchair.
Well, let's hope it's before then. Your family background is very interesting. Your heritage is Scots and Cherokee, and your grandmother was a direct descendant of Mary Queen of Scots, I believe.
Yes, she was.
And your mother was half Cherokee, is that right?
She was probably not quite half Cherokee.
Yeah, okay.
She was more Stewart than she was Cherokee.
Oh, okay.
She was Cherokee. My father was full-blood Cherokee.
Oh, okay. So your Cherokee roots mean a great deal to you. How have they influenced or informed your music?
I think that they have influenced and definitely have been a big part of my life, and I think whatever your life is reflected in the music. My group, Walela, was a Native American group with my sister Priscilla and her daughter Laura, and we released a DVD and 2 CDs, and it was one of the greatest musical experiences of my life, I think, to fulfill, kind of the family commitment to continue to sing our stories. And my sister, who was my partner, and her daughter, my sister passed October, not last year, but the year before. So I miss singing that music with them. And when I perform at Mariposa, I will be doing some Native music.
Walela in Cherokee means hummingbird.
It does, and that's hummingbird. Walela is my Indian name.
Oh, okay. I was wondered what the significance of the hummingbird was to you.
Yes, it's my sister started calling me hummingbird when I was a child, and it followed me through my life. It's been shortened now to the hummer, but I'm still the hummingbird.
Well, here's another quote from you. You said this was not from the book, but you've said on your bio, quote, "I want to hear music breathe. It has to have some open space, otherwise it's just a compacted bunch of sound," unquote. It's so easy today, technically, to cram all manner of musical pyrotechnics into a song. Do you think today's music is just getting too crowded with sound?
I can only speak from my opinion. I think that music today very often is just too much. There are too many instruments. There's too many things going on. I'm not 20 anymore, but when I was 20, I still liked to hear music breathe. Mm-hmm. I think that instead of singing 12 notes, that you should pick 2 or 3 that really count.
Yeah.
That's what impresses me, because it's not about doing musical or vocal gymnastics, but really about breathing life into a song. And I may be old school, but that's what I've always felt, and I still do.
Speaking of technical things, the music business over the past 20 years or so has changed immeasurably in the way the music is marketed, distributed, and created, and the way that artists are compensated. Do you think the changes overall have been a good thing?
Well, I think most artists would say no, especially the way that marketing is done. I mean, record companies literally, they barely exist anymore. There are no record stores. Everything is done, promotion is done through social media, and records are sold online or downloaded. And I honestly still buy CDs, and I like to open the CD, and I like to read the booklet inside and see who played on the record and look at lyrics, and that's just something. I don't have a Kindle. I don't like to read electronic books. I prefer to touch a book and to hold and feel and smell the paper and to read a book. So I just think that we're getting too far away from a more organic process, and when I record my next album, it's going to be the way I've always recorded, in the studio with musicians playing while I'm singing real authentic instruments.
You performed with Joe Cocker and his famous 1970 tour, Mad Dogs and Englishmen. Now, I'd imagine that touring with Joe Cocker would have been a very interesting experience. What was that like?
Well, the whole tour was somewhat of a circus. It felt like a circus as it was being assembled, and it felt like a circus the whole 2 months that we were on the road. And I think that because Leon Russell was put in charge of this tour that was just very hastily put together, because Joe had come from England on the heels of a big, long tour with the Grease Band, and he thought he was going to come to the States and be able to rest and could probably do this tour maybe a little bit down the road. But all these, there were 2 months of concert halls that had been booked, and literally within 4 days, Leon put together the band and the song arrangements. I put together the choir, and Leon said the only way this is going to work for me is that I have control of the band members, the arrangements, and everything. And Joe did acquiesce to that. 1 reason, because he was exhausted, and 2, because he had no other recourse. And I think that for Joe, I think that he enjoyed the music very much. I think that Leon did great arrangements, but he seemed to just be a little bit sad during the hours that he was not singing. I think he felt like he was being kind of guided around like a cattle call more than the superstar that he really was. And when Joe was center stage and singing, there was nobody on that stage as far as the audience was concerned but Joe, because he was so brilliant and such a professional and one of my favorite human beings that I ever knew in my life. And he and I spent a lot of time together on the plane. I would say, Joe, I have to go home. I can't do this. He'd say, you can't leave. You're the only friend I've got. And I would stay.
You're an accomplished painter, and you have an art degree from Florida State. What satisfaction does painting give you that music doesn't?
Well, it's a solo act, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
To me, painting is more of a meditation, and it's a creative process, but it's something that just involves what's coming from inside me. It doesn't involve other people. And because I'm so busy have been with the book and with music, I haven't been painting a lot, but I always look forward to it when I have the time and the inspiration to paint. It really is like nothing else. I also feel, and I always have, that music and colors parallel each other, and sometimes when I'm singing and creating music or writing songs, I can find the colors there.
Yeah.
So, one is kind of audio and one is visual, but I don't ever feel that I'm far away from either of those arts.
What kind of subjects do you paint?
I paint my granddaughters. I do still lifes. I do landscapes. I don't do much that's abstract. As a matter of fact, not any. I like colors, so they're always bright colors and usually some human element in my paintings.
You mentioned that you're planning to have some Aboriginal music in your program at Mariposa. Is there anything else about your Mariposa performance that you would like to tell us about?
I suppose I can just say that my shows traditionally are so eclectic because that's been my life experience. I've recorded music, so many different styles of music, and I was at the International Folk Alliance last year and had such a great time, and I spoke. I actually did a keynote speech there, and I talked about where I came from musically, and my grandmother, who was one of the most prolific songwriters and poets and singers that I knew in my life. So I think that, my roots really, really are folk music. I sang folk music when I was in college with a band, and I still really enjoy doing acoustic